Hello, it's Diane. I wanted to get these mermaid journals done this week, and I actually finished them late last night, Saturday. So I made it. I just haven't had time to video them yet. So I'm going to video them today and put them in my shop. 2 of these will be for sale. 1 is reserved for a customer. So it doesn't really matter which one. I'll just pick 2 and put them in my shop. And I'll reserve the other one for my customer. So let's just take a look at them. Instead of using a vintage book cover for these, I made them out of a sturdy chipboard. I'm going to tip my camera back down. Sturdy chipboard and Tyvek to reinforce the spine, and they're covered with this nice seashell and underwater plant fabric. It's a nice heavy twill. And then the spine is covered with a vintage blue and white striped fabric, which was the perfect color. I used some pretty lace that I had received in a swap from Tammy, and some shiny blue ribbon. And on the spine of this one, the spines are different on all of the journals, but this one is the antique crocheted lace that I found at a flea market, and I do have some of this one left in my shop. It's tied with 2 colors of seam binding, and these seam bindings are also going to be in my shop. They're not there yet, but I think I better get them in there soon. I have a lot of colors of seam binding to put in there. Many of the images are from Mrs. Cogs, and the pages and some of the cards are from Ivy Shutter's Song of the Sea. And there is also some images, and I saved the cutoff piece to show you, to tell you. It's Lula Razu is the name of the other digital kit that had this, some cards like that in there, but I will link that below. So let's just get going through there. I don't want to take too much time. So I believe this is a Mrs. Cogs image. There's cheesecloth behind it, and a bit of my eyelash trim that's in my shop, and a bit of vintage green lace, and this is vintage lace also. And there's a little bit of this sparkly stuff that someone had given to me. She is stitched to a turquoise, well, it's not really turquoise, but it's a blue cardstock from Stampin' Up. I left the cover pretty plain. The insides are pretty decorated, so I just left the cover plain, and I just made this book plate. So here's one of the Ivy Shutter's images, one of the pages with some crochet trim. This is a napkin that I Mod Podged on, and I will also leave the link to the napkin Etsy seller. She has a lot of napkins. Very, very nice designs, and they're nice big napkins too. This is cheesecloth up here with a little bit of blue trim. This is an image that was stamped and die cut that my friend Cindy sent to me. She and her granddaughter made die cut and stamped mermaids for me. And I used my twinkling H2Os to paint her. And I actually did a video of me painting the mermaids, but for some reason that video will not upload to YouTube. So I will do a demonstration on painting with twinkling H2Os soon. I colored my papers with food coloring and then did some spraying. So I used blues and greens and purples. There's some vintage trim up here, and then there's just a paper clip, a spiral paper clip to attach this Ivy Shutter's envelope. There's nothing in the envelopes in these journals, at least the Ivy Shutter's ones. And this is a stamp, Voyage. I used some of the really pretty pieces from the boho fabrics that I had gotten from different sources. I got some from eBay, some from Sheila. I know her name, but it's not coming to me now, but she was on Facebook on Junk Journal Junkies selling some of her pieces. And I got some from Selena on Amour Fabriques. So I don't know what came from who at this point. This is a piece of trim that I had purchased at Hobby Lobby, and I just thought it looked jellyfishy and really neat. These threads, if you don't like the ones that hang down long, you can trim them off, but I left them on. This is a piece of the border, wallpaper border that I got with the shells on it. I just cut that out and then put it on as a pocket and put a couple little tags in there. This is one of the collage tuck spots that I made, and this piece here is a piece of the Indian fabrics. This is tissue paper that's been alcohol inked, and I stamped "The Sea is Calling and I Must Go." This is stitched to coffee dyed paper. Here is a glassine bag, a craft colored bag that I also colored with alcohol inks, and I put on this image. This was a free image from, is it Wings of Whimsy? Something like that. And there's this blue lace. I carry this in my shop. A little piece of blue fabric and a blue yo-yo. I just put a plain index card in there. Journaling spot. A little domino piece. I have some Sea Life domino shaped pieces from Christie Art Design. I own this stamp. I got it at either Michael's or Hobby Lobby. There's some of that tissue or tracing paper that's been alcohol inked, and I did do a tutorial on that, and some music paper that I just stitched there. I got this idea from Jibid Neri, and here's the hearts in the center. And they're punched out of blue food coloring dyed paper. There's another stamp from Graphic 45, the other side of the bag, and it has a journaling card in there from Mrs. Cogs. This is from Ivy Shutters. It's got some cheesecloth and lace and a piece of ribbon. Look at all the colors in that dyed paper. This is another piece of the Indian fabric with some sequins and jewels. Mrs. Cogs image. If they were printed on cardstock, I colored the backs, and if they were printed on paper, I stitched them to coffee dyed paper. Here's another of Mrs. Cogs images. I rounded one corner and stitched it on as a corner tuck spot, and here's some, this is the blue-gray lace that I have in my shop. I just took a little snip of it, and then I have had this in my stash. And this is from Lula Rosu. And a piece of the cover fabric I just put in as a flip with another piece of vintage trim. I used light blue thread to stitch throughout the journal. There's another piece of the napkin. A glassine bag, and here's one of the tags that I showed on my video earlier with napkin, also from the same source, with some stamps. Some of the nice fabrics from India. I just thought the jewel effect looked nice for the Mermaid journal, like they were treasures that they found in a shipwreck. Now for this one is crazy quilt paper. I just took a piece of coffee dyed paper and tore up pieces of scrapbook paper and stitched them on. These are the offcuts of the papers that I used in the books, and I just stitched them on crazy quilt style. And I did not want the paper clip to catch on the threads, so I just punched this out of the food coloring dyed paper and put the paper clip over that so it won't catch on the threads when you pull it out. And these are just some more offcuts that are folded for journaling. Here's another piece of fabric. I know this one came from Selena. I'm not sure about this one. And there's some vintage rickrack at the top. Another image with some cheesecloth and lace and ribbon, and just a little lined page to journal on tucked in there. A couple of the dominoes from Christie Art Design. A wallpaper border seashell. Some trimmings from the Indian Fabrics. Little seahorse stamp that I have. This is from a blank journal that I had. I'm not sure what that creature is, but on this side there's a mermaid. There's another of the die cuts that Cindy and her granddaughter made for me. Thank you so much, Cindy, and I don't know your granddaughter's name, but I really thank you. I loved using these images in the book. They really added something. Here's another collage corner tuck spot. This is a Lula Rosu image and a ribbon that I've had in my stash for a long time. Scrapbook paper, and one of the Indian Fabrics. So some of the Under the Sea papers by Ivy Shutters have lined paper. She has, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 lined papers that you can print on the backs of your digital papers. I made like a library pocket here, but curved this edge. I got that idea from Jibbid. I didn't color up the back of this one. If I remember to, I'll do that. It's one of the Mrs. Cogs images. This paper that I used, I wanted to show you. It looks like watercolor, so it was perfect. I used the blues and the greens in this book, and it came from this paper pad that I got at Hobby Lobby. It's by Momenta cardstock. It's 8x8. There's 48 pieces in it. It was $10, but I got it half price when they had their paper on sale. Their paper has not been on sale when I go anymore. I don't get to go very often, but every time I go, there's not very much craft supplies on sale. This came from a vintage book, and I just stitched it on as part of the crazy quilt. Some of this paper that is in these books with the 1/2-inch grid and with these lined handwriting papers, they came from an estate sale, and I colored them, dyed them, and baked them. I liked the juxtaposition of this elegant fabric with this more rustic looking fabric. It reminded me of the treasure on the ship, and then all the utilitarian ropes and things on the ship. I used this image as part of the crazy quilt paper. I like that shell. Another envelope with nothing in it. Another collaged pocket. This came from Selena, and it was a piece of fabric like this. I just cut a row off and then trimmed a little piece of the row to sew on there. In the middle is a digital copy of the Mermaid song, and this came from Lula Rosu also. Here is just a piece of the corner sheet with the elastic, so it was gathered, and I liked the blue and green, and it's cornflowers is the design, but just this little snippet looks like seaweed, so I stitched it there and then glued these pieces on. Some more of the beautiful Indian fabric. This says City of Lake Charles. Maybe somebody sent that to me. But maybe there are mermaids in Lake Charles, you never know. Maybe they're not all saltwater. There's another bit of that trim and a Mrs. Cogs image. I think both of these are. And I did some stamping on the crazy quilt paper too. In the back of it, I left the back cover plain too. So there's one. They're not going to have names. There will just be 2 mermaid journals in my shop until one is gone, and then there'll be one until that one is gone. Here's another image. I love this picture. So the covers are pretty much the same, except the images are different and the spine has something different on it. This is from a wedding gown, and it's got little pearls and things and sequins, so it's full of pretty things that the mermaids found in the sea. Oh, I didn't do the "This Book Belongs To" piece here. I saw one on my table and wondered why I had one left over. Now I know where it goes. I'll just go through this book more quickly. I love this piece of sequined fabric sewn on there. I had a lot of fun making these collage tuck spots. This is napkin. This is a graphic 45 stamp. Again, the City of Lake Charles. I only had 2 of those sheets left, so only 2 books got that. Pretty fabrics from India. There's a little seahorse here. The seahorse is stamped there. I was thinking there was a seahorse on that page, but not in this book. This one also has a circle glued around the edges so the paper clip doesn't catch. Isn't that pretty? There's a larger bag in this one, and it's collage with bits of fabric. It's Mrs. Cogs' image. And this is a Mrs. Cogs image. Little bits of the sequined fabric. I didn't want to throw any of it away. Look at that beautiful applique. I have to tell you, it was really hard for me to use some of those pieces, but what's the point in having them if I'm not going to use them? That's why I bought them. Sometimes I feel like I can only use them for the purpose I bought them for, which would be a Bohemian journal, but I have enough of the pieces. This is another one of those library type pockets that I made, that I can use them with the mermaid journals and still have plenty for Bohemian journals. So they're in here, and I love the way they really add to the book. This is a bit of the tissue paper that was a scrap left over. Another Indian fabric. This is from a vintage doll dress. It was where the skirt was gathered to the bodice, and I cut the skirt off, but I saved a little piece of gathered edge that was right under the bodice. It was still gathered, and the color was beautiful with this, so I just sewed it on there. Index card, another yo-yo fabric yo-yo there. This is vintage fabric here, or lace, I mean. Another piece of the beaded and sequined fabric. I put another of the seashells here and a silhouette mermaid. For this napkin decoupage on the tag, I just used the mermaid's tail. You can see her hand up here with a fish on it. Mermaid book number 2. And here's the third one. This is that thick trim that I used in the other book that I got from Hobby Lobby. And there's the image on the front. I loved this paper, but I only had one sheet of it left. So it got put on the first book that I made. There's the front, and there's the back. I don't even know who made it. I've had it for quite a few years, and I have very few pages left. This is gorgeous. I love this also. I love this image. I think that's, ouch, just kicked my heel against the wheel of my chair. I think that is from Mrs. Cogs, not positive. I don't know what, oh, I didn't put the hearts on this signature. I've got some extras here. I'll have to glue them on. I don't know what you would want to do with this paper. I just think it looks pretty, but you could certainly glue some tickets or photos or something on it. Another really wonderful applique. Oh, that's that same image. I didn't know it was so close together in here. Last signature. This one I didn't glue the circle onto because the page it wasn't patchworked. It's sewn. I thought this lace looked like a mermaid tail sticking out of there. I just cut that off of something else. Another beaded and sequined piece. Alright, that's where that goes. Okay, so there we have 3 Mermaid junk journals, and I love them. I was so happy with the way they turned out, and I was so excited to be able to show them to you. And I am so excited to put them in my shop and see if you like them as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.